Hey, welcome. It's Milan with the Tuning into the One video series, and welcome or welcome back. If this is your first time, then please welcome, and there's a plethora of video blogs for you to look through. Briefly, last time we covered understanding life and relationships from the standpoint of biology, how you're socialized, energy tracks thoughts versus feelings, wants versus don't wants, moving towards what you want and gain, and pulling away from or pushing away from what you don't want, and pain. So much going on in life. Gosh, I really think it's important to get a good grasp of understanding life and how relationships work in general. And in today's video, covering specifically how your model of the world and how you understand it. I believe it's in the Talmud, to paraphrase it, we don't see life as it is, we see life as we are. So our model of the world, how we operate, a 3x3 model matrix of our world is important in terms of defining it, looking at our model of the world. When I look at clients and when I work with clients, it's always from their model of the world. I find out a little about them. I look to map over modalities and submodalities to really help work with that. So for instance, briefly somebody was asking me about work and jobs, and I said, well, what's one of your favorite sports? And it turned out to be baseball. So then I started looking at baseball analogies and metaphors, because oftentimes we can make sense of our world or somebody else's world by best referencing things that they're familiar with. And how do we navigate the landscape of our own world and defining your world and defining your particular model of that world in a step-by-step outline when it comes down to dating, relating, and mating, what your world looks like, as well as defining that and then interpreting, translating, and making sense of the things that show up. So in a basic way, our imprint period, let's say 0 to 10, it's 0 to 7, 0 to 8. Other people will argue different biometric indications of when we go from being a complete sponge to kind of like having our hardware and software in place, and then the rest of our lives is about navigating through that operating software and hardware when we're hardwired. Somewhere between 0, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age is when all of that happens. So for the rest of it, as far as modeling our world goes, so when we looked at it in terms of getting clarity on what life looks like and understanding life and relationships, we talked about biology, how we're socialized, energy tracks, the intent of what we want to say, what we end up saying when what gets heard, as well as making sure that we have a voice, that our voice gets heard, and that we're acknowledged. So all those pieces are very, very crucial to understanding life and understanding people in a universal sense. In a unique sense, we have our own beliefs, our own identities, our own values. These are the important pieces that we'll cover on today's video. When it comes down to our beliefs, anything that starts with the sentence, the world is, money is, you have to work hard in this life, those are all beliefs. Identities would be sentences, and again, these are representative pieces. So if you're looking and saying, well, what are beliefs? Well, beliefs are the things that we give a certain value, meaning, relationship to. For instance, money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, so the belief there would be that you're not just going to get money, that on some level there is a level of working for it, earning it, there's merit, and all those things are important. So we'll make statements, and those statements reflect our beliefs, and underneath it we eventually can dig down and get to the core beliefs. And when we do that, then we're getting to the essence of how we see the world. Then there's identities, which is how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and how we have equivalencies. So I am a man, I am strong, I am alive, I am a parent, I am a citizen of the United States of America, I am happy, I am sad, I am joyous, I am free, I have to work the way I work because my life is all about how I show up, and I am responsible. So I am statements, you are statements, they are statements. Those would all be identity pieces, which again, when you examine them, so in my coaching I would have people sit down and do writing, home work assignments or home plate assignments. And they would be write out statements like life is, life is, life is, life is, life is not, life is not, life is not. People are not. Men are not. Women are not. And these would all reflect beliefs. Then identities would be I am statements. I am not statements. Then you could go with people's first names if you happen to have people you've been in a relationship with, and you can start really getting down to the nature of the identities that you have assigned to yourself as well as to others in your life. Parents, brothers, sisters, work colleagues, spouses, anybody, mothers, daughters, sons. It's that idea that we give meaning to the world, and part of how we can see that in our own model of the world is by looking at our core beliefs, our core identities, and finally our values. We've talked about this before. Values would be statements along the lines of what's most important to you. What do you value most in the context of your love relationships, in the context of your finances, in the context of your career, in the context of your health, physical and mental health. Those would all be values. And when it comes down to it, when we go, so at the top layers we have beliefs, identities, and values. Then in the matrix, the next three that we would be looking at would be things that are like filters or context, points of view. That would be one. And then the decisions and the expectations and some of the presuppositions that come out of those filters, context, and point of views that help us to define and give meaning to our world, our specific world. Okay, so before we were talking about the universal, more or less, understanding of how life works and how relationships work in the last couple of videos. In this one, we're focusing more on how we work, how our model of the world works, because that's where we're operating from. And then with the values, the next level down would be, are things divergent and conflicting, or are they more convergent and aligned? Are they more exclusive or inclusive? Are we filtering for like-kinded things or for differences, similarities or differences? Positive and well-being filters, or are we looking at negative and dis-ease filters? And these can be had from conversations. So your beliefs, your identities, and values are at the top of that pyramid, so to speak, or a cube. And then as you move down, you've got the filters, the context, the point of views, as well as decisions, expectations, presuppositions, projections, and perceptions, which all essentially come into place because that's when we are looking to accomplish a goal, a simple goal. All these things, our beliefs, our identities, our values, the context and the filter. And what's an example of that? Well, for instance, someone may say a sentence like, "You're not very smart." Now, if it's a stranger, it might just glance off. If it's somebody I know that's not a very close friend, then it won't glance off, but it won't exactly kind of like hit the heart or something. If it's my partner in life, if it's my soulmate, if it's my son, if it's my mom, that same statement could have a very devastating effect because there's a closer level of intimacy. And as we talked about on the level of connection, sometimes connection or disconnection can be a protection point for us. So our ability to have expectations or filters and contexts and then have these values aligned, divergent, exclusive or inclusive, who says what can determine how we give it meaning. And finally, as we're looking to set ourselves up for objectives, goals, and desired outcomes, then we have to fashion action steps, and out of those action steps we have behaviors and habits that come out of the strategies, the recipes, and the systems and the processes that we marry. So those are the pieces. So if I was going to pick a matrix and identify one word for each area of the matrix, I would say at the top, the first three you have at the top level are beliefs, identities, and values. Then at the next level down you have filters. Then next to that you have decisions, and then next to that you have divergent or convergent, meaning that they're aligning together or they're going apart. And that last part, think of like if you have a horse-drawn carriage. You want all the horses lined up. And sometimes with values, we actually have conflicting values, and we could get torn apart by those conflicting values, which will in turn affect how we strategize and build our recipes of action steps, which in turn determines our behaviors and habits, and that also has an impact on how we set our goals and objectives and what are the desired outcomes versus the actual outcomes that we get. All of those things put together. So beliefs, identities, and values at the top. Then the next level, or the middle level, would be filters and decisions and alignment or a lack of alignment with regards to those filters and decisions, as is based on our higher level beliefs, identities, and values. And then finally, at the bottom would be our objectives or goals or desired outcomes, which are determined by the sequence of actions, steps, behaviors, and habits that we have, which in turn are influenced by the kind of strategies and recipes or systems that we're approaching. And finally, when it comes down to it, what we're all really looking for is a sense of love. And nobody says it better than the Beatles. So when you're looking for love, how does that impact your dating, relating, and mating strategy when it comes to your beliefs, your values, your identities? All these things are heavily impacted. And as a result, that'll determine how well you take off or land when it comes to relationships, dating, and mating. And we'll cover that in the next video. This is Milan signing off and wishing you amazing dating success and relationship mastery. And until the next time, remember, look below this video and you'll see a link to get your free Soulmate Attraction Blueprint session. And they are going quickly these days. They do sell out normally, and I don't know that I'll be doing them for too much longer. So if you want to find Mr. right now, look below this video and go ahead and find out more to book your session. In the meantime, this is Milan signing off. Until the next time, bye for now.